greetings, everybody, and welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredland. I'm excited that you are joining us, and I know a number of you are joining us for the first time or the second time or third time. Our numbers have grown quite a bit lately, so welcome to the show. Thanks for being part of our Rec Poker tribe, if you will. I want to make sure that you are aware that we've got a number of really cool interviews that we've done in the past, some great players where we talk a lot of strategy. We hear a little bit about their background, but we actually dig into some strategy, and a lot of those interviews have really helped me. So in addition to our most recent ones with Mike Schneider, you can also hear thoughts from Alec Torelli, James Splitsuit Sweeney, Dr. Tricia Cardner, Jordan Young, Gareth James, Sarah Herring, Jonathan Little, Matt Berkey, and then we've got a number of hand situations where we've got input from Rex and pros, and then we go back a ways and you got some more interviews with people like Chris Hansen, Ku Vang, Mark Hodge, Steve Olson, Brian Soja, Chris Fox Wallace, Zach Elwood, Hunter Sitchy, Mike Schneider again, Jonathan Kim, Aaron Johnson, Jason Seitz, and Vlad Revniaga. So a great lineup of our past episodes, so I want to welcome you to go back and take a listen to those. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Mr. HPT, Craig Casino, who a number of you have probably seen on the HPT broadcast or maybe even played with a bit. He's a recreational player that's really focused on playing the HPTs when he has a chance to play. With that, hey, if you want to help promote the Rec Poker Podcast, greatly appreciate it. We've got merchandise available at floptheworld.com/recpoker. Otherwise, I've got some patches. I've got both adhesive and iron-on. I'm willing just to send those out to you for free if you want to represent the brand that way. So thanks for that. Now we'll hear a quick word from our sponsor, Running Aces, and then after that, we will jump right into the interview with Craig Casino.
Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker. Well, everybody, as promised, here with Craig Casino via phone. Craig, first of all, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to doing it.
Now, where are we? Where are you at? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Winfield, Illinois. We're like a suburb 30 miles or so west of Chicago, little town of like 8,000 people. So just nice Sunday afternoon, just relaxing a little bit here.
Nice. Now, did you grow up in that area, or did you move there?
No, I grew up here in Wheaton, Illinois, which is right next to Winfield. I always say Winfield's like a suburb of Wheaton, but I grew up there from the time I was 2, and just high school sports, college locally, and got a job on the police department after I got married, so just been here the whole time.
Okay, now a lot of our listeners are going to know you as Mr. HPT, or at least that's where we've seen you playing quite a bit, a lot of final tables on the HPT. So I'm curious, is that the one tour you choose to play? Do you play quite a bit? I know you're also, a business owner, so you're really a recreational player, but, what's the affiliation with the HPT and why that seemed to be the chosen tour?
Well, I have a business. I've been running it for 48 years. I was a police officer in the middle of it. Got on the police department and then got into the business and kept it going all this time, and then just started playing poker. And because of my business, because I'm busy many times during the year, I don't have the opportunity to go to a World Poker Tour event or go to the World Series of Poker where I may have to spend, these guys go for weeks or months out there. Yeah. And I can't even think of doing that. So like this year I haven't even been out to the World Series yet. Trying to go out for the main in the next few days, but that'll probably be the only event I get to play. As far as the Heartland, I love the Heartland. I started there. I started locally with Rockford Charitable Games, which is like a local poker charity. A friend of mine introduced me to it. And like everybody else, I'd been watching poker on TV for a long time, just many years, and studied the game. I read poker books and just thought, boy, I could do that. I think I could do that. So I did okay at Rockford, and then I started going to the Heartlands, and things worked out pretty early on at the Heartland, which enabled me to continue to play. the reason I like the Heartlands the most is literally I could fly in, like if it's Midwest or something, on a Friday morning. I could be playing at noon, 1 or 2 o'clock, whatever time they start. Play Friday, Saturday, day 1B, 1C, and then day 2 is always Sunday, and I usually have a flight booked to come home Sunday night or Monday morning. So if I get through day 2 on Sunday, my flight is available in the morning. If I happen to make the final table, then I'm more than happy to reschedule a last-minute expensive flight on Tuesday,
right.
After the final table on Monday. So I figure I can afford it at that point.
So how many of those do you think you play a year, do you think?
The Heartlands varied, the numbers of them they've had. They usually anywhere from 12 to 22, I think, was their peak some years ago. I try to make 60 to 70%, and a little more than 50. And I know recently I was on TV and kind of James said, Craig shows up, he's at every event. Well, it may seem like it to him because I'm there more than he is, but that's not the case. I miss several events every year. It's just family first, then work, and then if I have time, I play poker.
So if you have a weekend available, I assume is it the HPT is kind of the first thing that comes to mind, or are there other tours or situations where you're thinking, man, I want to do this instead of the HPT? No,
HPT usually. I've played a few I think 2 MSPT events, but same token. They're short time span, and you can be gone for a weekend and be home. And my wife, we've been married for 44 years, and her dad used to travel for a living. He was a salesman, so he would be gone 5-6 days a week. So for me to be gone 3 days, at a crack, 8-10 times a year is not a horrible thing. It's just
right.
She said sometimes it's better to get away from each other once in a while, get a little separation in there. And as far as her with me, I can see it. With me with her, I could put up with her every day of the week. So that's
right, exactly.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, we're only at 27 years, so I've got a ways to go, and I can learn a few things from you. But
27 is quite an accomplishment, believe me.
Well, thanks. 40. We're on our way to 44, and
there you go.
I hope. So if you think about, I'm curious, sort of, the pull of poker for you. So, you own a business. It sounds like you have some freedom to do some different things. There's a lot of hobbies out there. You could go fishing. You could shoot pool. You could become a movie connoisseur, a restaurant connoisseur. You could, go bowling. Like, what is it about poker that's sort of drawn you in?
Well, I really didn't start playing until I was 56. And, I played with my dad and my uncles and my friends when I was 18, 19, 20, we would get together and play the quarter half games and just, every game under the sun, and had a lot of fun doing it. So I knew the game basically. I enjoy the camaraderie with a lot of the tremendous people I've met in poker now, and the friendships I've made, and the people at the Heartland are wonderful to me, and just great to be around. And James Larson, Corey, Jeremy, Kenna, those guys they're all great guys. It's just a good place to go to play.
So what is it about the pull of poker though? So you play it, it's a great place, you meet great people, you make great friendships. But I'm guessing there's something about the game itself that energizes you or fuels you or provides a competitive edge. Or can you put that into words? Like, what is it about poker itself that is appealing to you?
Yeah, I like the thought process. I like the challenge. I'm a situational player and pretty much I'm a circumstantial player. So it depends on what's happening at the time. It's like, a lot of players will remember, hands that they played an hour, 2 or 3 hours before against certain people. I'm not that way. I cannot recall hands like a lot of the young players do. You talk to guys and they'll say, well, what did you have that hand when you did this? And hey, if I could remember, I would tell you, but I really don't. I just try to figure out things as I go, get reads on people, and I think I have an edge there, having been a police officer for 14 years, and you just, you can just tell a story. You can tell the story or read the story other people are trying to tell you, and does this make sense right now? And that's a huge part of the game, so I think that benefits me. But that's what I like. It's just a challenge. Everything in my life has been, I played baseball. I played all different sports, basketball, and then in college also with baseball. And I just loved the competitive aspect. I'm competitive in everything I do. And poker, obviously, as you get older. I mean, I played softball till I was 60 with, right. friends and whatever. But, I'm 65 almost now, and softball, I'm done with that. And so, poker's not all that physically challenging other than the long hours.
So there's a lot of people that are like hyper competitive and, get into things. They love poker for the competitiveness of it, but they never really achieve success, just because they're just not skilled. But, you've achieved some level of success. And obviously, as a complete outsider, we don't know how many tournaments you play, how much you spent to get to these final tables, but we do see you reaching final tables pretty consistently at the HPT. And so it feels like there's a modicum of success there. So, everybody can be competitive, but not everybody seems to, cross that bridge over to success and what they're trying to be competitive at. So I'm curious, in addition to being a police officer, being able to read people, why would you say that you're successful? Do you think you're just sort of smarter than the average Joe? Do you work harder? What do you think has contributed to you becoming a passionate poker player to a successful poker player?
Well, I'm not smarter than the average Joe. I'm sure of that as far as poker players out there. And, just talking to other players, I know that's not the case. I think for me, I went to my first Heartland, and I really enjoyed it. I think the second or maybe third Heartland I went to was in Iowa, in Tama City, Iowa. And I ended up getting down to 7th. And at that time, the Heartland only had 6 players at the final table. So when we got down to 7, I and another guy named Brian Reisner, I believe his name was, from Minnesota, he and I got into a huge hand, and we were the 2 chip leaders by far. We both had 480,000 chips. Next, the other 4 or other 5 players were down 200 or less at that point. And we got into this huge hand, and even though I was ahead, I ended up losing it with the river, which we've all experienced how many times.
Right.
I finished 7th. Now, made decent money, finishing 7th, and I was kicking myself because I'm thinking I may never get that close to a TV table again. It's like, did I just blow it? And I remembered reading poker books that said, the 2 guys who are the chip leaders, your first step is to make the money, the next step is to get to the final table, and the next step is to win it. And I shouldn't have put myself in that position almost no matter what the circumstances were, short of having the nuts to get involved in a hand like that with him. So I ended up losing it, and I felt pretty bad about it. And I talked to him later about that, and I said, you know the game too. I said, we weren't supposed to get into that hand. And he said, yeah, but he said the month before at another Heartland, he finished second in one. And so he said, I already had been there, and he said, I just didn't care. I just felt like it was good, and he was going to go with it. And he did. And so he'd already been to the final table, and recently. And maybe that just gave him that degree of confidence to just know that, just feel like he was going to win this hand and get there. So, and he did. And he ended up steamrolling the table and winning that tournament. And it bothers you when things like that happen. But then, went to Colorado, Heartland out there a few months later, and finished 18th. Went to a couple other Heartlands after that, didn't do as well. And then I go to a Heartland again, about a year later in 2011. And it was the first $1 million prize pool that the Heartland ever had. And, first prize was just under $300,000, so it was pretty amazing. And I ended up winning that. And, once that happened, it was, and the way that happened was pretty amazing in its own right. When we were down to 22 players, I think it was, I ended up losing a huge hand, thought I was out, and stood up and was starting to walk away from the table. And it just turned out that I still had 2 black chips left, and I'm thinking two $10,000 chips, and I thought, wow. So I go all in, I go all in again, I go all in again. I lucked out twice, a couple times I just had the best hand. And before I knew it, I went to I got down to the final 9, and the final 6, I'm sorry, and I had the chip lead with about 9 million chips. I went from a third of a big blind, because the big blind was at 60,000. I went from that to winning the tournament, and I thought, oh man, it's just you heard the chip in a chair story. This was the 2 chip in a chair story. But I got home,
everybody's kind of joking about, chip in a chair, ha ha ha.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. It happens, and so anyway, I just that kind of propelled me a little bit. It gave me all kinds of confidence, and it's like just about anybody can get lucky. I mean, we've all seen guys on TV, probably me included. Some would say that, hey, they don't play that great, but they won the tournament. Well, anybody can win one, but then things worked out that 2 years later I won another tournament, and then 2 years after that I won another big tournament, and it was like I was kind of on cruise control. So it gave me the money that I needed to play, and because if I was playing with my own money, I wouldn't be playing anywhere near as often as I do, but I'm still way ahead of the curve. I paid my taxes, the minute I got home, because I heard all the horror stories about that, and then plus at my age I know better. It's like, there's a record of what you've won out there. It's easy to find, and so you pay your taxes and keep what's left, and you devote some of it to charity and some to the family, and some you keep playing with. So
yeah, that's fantastic. I love that story. I love the chip in the chair stuff.
Yeah.
People don't realize it does happen. It literally does. And so as you think about the success that you've had, I mean, obviously now that gave you confidence. You have confidence going in. You've got the bankroll to be able to play and not worry about missing a mortgage if you lose. You've got this ability to reach people, or at least kind of psychologically compete that way. But what's going on with you as far as do you study strategy? Do you study hand ranges? Do you watch videos? Is there any of that going on, or are you sort of at this stage I know what I know and I'm just playing when I can play and playing with confidence? Or, is there an intentional, a learning approach to the game beyond what you're doing?
No, there's a learning approach. I mean, I've probably read 15, 16 poker books. I read a couple of them maybe 15 times. Just when I'm on a plane, I'm flying here or there, or when I'm waiting for day 2 to start, I get up in the morning. I will pull up video of players that I know are going to be at the final table and watch all, but I don't have the time to sit and watch like Poker Go and some of these other shows where, there is a definite improvement in players today. Even me being a novice back when I was playing, and when I watched my own final tables, like back from that one I won in Colorado, it's like, boy, I wouldn't have done that now. I wouldn't have done that now, but, enough things went right that I was able to win it. So, but, it's all part of it. Right now, I think I've drifted a little more into I know what I know. I've felt myself drift off a little bit in the last year or two, although I did have a second place finish at a Heartland last fall, but I had kind of a slow period for about a year and a half, and I just wasn't making day 2s, and somebody asked me about that, why do you think that is? And it's like, once you get that, where you've had some success and your friends are asking you about it and your family's asking you about it, it gets to a point, to me, it felt like everybody just expected me to get to day 2 all the time and to get to the final day. It's like nobody, unless you're a player, people don't really understand how hard it is to get there. And then when you go through a few events where you're not making day 2 and you're not getting to the final table, you're not even cashing, that you start putting pressure on yourself. And what am I doing different? What have I changed? Am I more aggressive? Am I less aggressive than I was? Am I worrying about things I didn't used to worry about? And I think that's all part of it. You're always battling within your own mind as to how the game affects you and the things you want to do, and you find yourself making mistakes. I know I do anyway. You watch some of these young guys on TV and, the Final Table, World Poker Tour events, or the Heartlands, or whatever's on. Some of these guys are just excellent players, but a lot of those guys don't, a lot of those guys you don't know how much they've played. You know, I mean, you don't know how many events do they play to get there. I mean, there's so few players around that, you know, everybody knows the Jason Mercier and the Negreanu and the guys that have been around for a while. You know, that a lot of those guys had an advantage, and they understood the game and were really good at it when there was a lot of really weak players, when Moneymaker did what he did. Well, now, with all the poker that's out there, all the books, all the studying, everybody's gotten much better. And I think that's part of it, too, because if everybody plays the game well and everybody understands the game and everybody knows why, you know, somebody's doing what they're doing maybe and why they aren't, then it boils down to who got the most big hands or who didn't make the one big mistake. And, you know, it's before you could force your will on people, it's not as easy to force your will on people any longer. And that was an advantage for me, I think, was that at my age, I think people expected me to play a little more conservatively, and before I, you know, got to be known, I was playing. I had Kathy Liebert tell me from a hand we played. She goes, I hate playing against you. She said, you play like you're 21 years old and nobody sees it coming. And, you know, because we were in the button big blind situation in Arizona, and everybody folds to her and she puts in a raise. So the small blind folds, comes to me, and I thought, oh, it's Kathy Liebert. She knows she's supposed to raise there. So I looked down at King 8 offsuit, and I re-raised her. And so she kind of knew of me because I'd already won the Heartland in Colorado. So she's looking at me kind of warily, and then she re-raises again. Well, then I re-raise her 5 better the next time, and she finally lays down and she shows jacks, and everybody's going, come on, show, and she's saying show, and I said, I don't want to show. I didn't want to show her up. You know, it's only a hand. I understand that. But so I turn up the King 8. It might have been a King 6. But anyway, turn it up, and she just shakes her head, and we're walking out at the break, and she said, you know, you play like you're 21 years old. She said, you're tough to play against. I took that as a huge compliment.
Yeah,
so, but that's not working so much anymore because, I've been on. Somebody said to me last year, and I didn't even think about it, but they're probably right. They said, do you realize that you've been on TV playing tournament poker for the entire event, you know, that more than probably anybody in the world? And I had to think about that, and I'm thinking, okay, 11 Heartlands final tables, that's a lot, and then 5 Windy City Classic. I've been on 5 times there, I believe, and that's 16 times playing the entire final table tournament till I got knocked out. Well, guys kind of figure out how you play when they see that over and over and over again. So I thought, well, yeah, you know, I mean, everybody's seen Helmuth on a million times and Negreanu and all these guys, but a lot of, and they have been, but how many times have you seen them play the entire final table of the tournament? It just doesn't come up that often. Right. So I think that kind of hurts me too.
Well, I suppose it works both ways, though. I mean, you have different dynamics at play. So people, you know, if they're watching them and actually studying how you play, they're going to learn some insight about how you play. But then there's also the awe factor against playing somebody who's, you know, you've seen on TV, and, you know, does that create more fear in people, or does that create them to be more aggressive because they want to win a pot off of you? And, you know, so there's all those sort of dynamics that you kind of have to navigate, almost like, how is this person approaching playing against me that they know? Are they going to be more timid, or are they going to, you know, they want to tell their buddies they bluffed me off a hand? You know,
no, they're not more timid. I'll guarantee you that. I have players have told me many times that, you know what, I was okay playing that hand with you because I figured I was behind, but I knew if I got knocked out, I could say I got knocked out by you, and if I end up beating you or knocking you out, I can say I knocked you out, you know. So that's obvious, and that's a factor for a lot of players out there, and you have to figure out how to navigate that. So you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that change the game for individual players, and I don't know. I still enjoy it, still like playing it. Not quite as much as in the beginning, but you know, I still go, and I'm playing a lot less. It's not that I'm not cashing that much. It's you know, I think I've only played 3 times this year, and it's almost July, and that's not a whole lot. and I played a few times last fall. So yeah, I haven't been playing as much lately, but I'm getting to the point too where I don't like being away from home that much, and
right.
I even on the weekend, it's like, what do? You get there, you play, you wake up in the morning, you watch TV for 6-7 hours. I don't just go down there and play blackjack, and I don't do all that stuff. So it's like, if I've got money to devote to gambling, for me, I want it to be, I'm going to spend it on poker buy-ins on tournaments, because I rarely even play cash games. If I'm somewhere and I made it to day 2 on the first day I'm there, and I've got a whole day to burn, then I'll go and sit and play a 2-5 or 5-10 cash game, for a couple hours just to go down and do something, and then head back up to the room and wait till it's time to play again. The tournament.
Yeah, you and I are the same way. I've never played any table games at all, and I play cash 3 or 4 times. I'm kind of a one-trick pony, just for me, more on the starting line of being a player. But I'm like, man, I got to figure out this one thing, and I just want to play where I actually have a skill edge or at least skills involved or something.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the same way that way. I'm curious a little bit. You mentioned there's a number of books that you've read and some of them multiple times, and you watch some videos. Are there certain players or certain videos or books that have been more influential in your development as a player than others, or are there certain ones that you're like, man, that really helped me become a better player?
Well, early on, the book that I enjoyed the most and read the most was Every Hand Revealed by Gus Hansen.
Yeah.
And, everybody knows
that
Gus
explains your
is kind of...
21-year-old attitude.
Yeah, exactly. And, I love that book. And it was like written for me. I mean, it's like, that's kind of how I was playing anyway. And when I watch players on TV now as to who plays how and, what they do, I think, to me, and I'm not comparing myself in any way, shape, or form to the quality of play of Daniel Negreanu, but I play Daniel Negreanu hands all the time. If I see 4 or 5 of spades or 8, 9 of diamonds or whatever, and I don't care what position I'm in, I'll play those hands, and I know I'm giving up chips a lot of times doing it. But boy, when you hit them big, and a lot of times those big hands are the ones that make the difference in the tournament. You can lose a lot of small pots, but boy, when the right hand comes along, you got to be willing to put chips out there. And there's a lot of guys that just won't play those hands. They think, okay, an ace or a king's going to show up, then what am I going to do? I never give up on a hand. I mean, I do give up, but I mean, I'm every card that shows up, I'm thinking, what can I represent? What are they thinking I'm holding? The nice thing when you play like I do with those types of hands is, let's say I do have ace-king, and the flop comes 5-7-9.
Right.
And I continuation bet. Well, yeah, I mean, even though I haven't hit my hand, they'll look at me all the time and say, God, you're all over that flop. I just know it.
Right.
But then when I do have the cards that work with that hand, then they're a little more cautious maybe, but if they've got kings or, aces or whatever, and I've got a chance, I might have to see another card, or maybe I made my hand right away by flopping 2 pair or flopping trips. It's just, they just don't know what to do with me. That's why I like playing those hands. That's what I'm known for. And, my chip stacks go up and down like a roller coaster, but you got to learn, you got to be able to deal with that. You got to not get all bummed out if you have 600,000 chips and then you got 150,000. You can't, you just can't give up and just give away chips after that because you think you blew it. I mean, just the way you went down, you can go back up. So you have to have the mental fortitude to deal with those types of swings.
Well, I think that's where experience has helped you. Like you said, coming back from 20,000 chips to win the tournament, or, anytime you've been low and been able to recover, and, those sorts of things give you confidence. So you're not going to be as scared of losing a pot as you would be if, like, you're never able to recover. If you don't have that experience of recovering and being successful. Yeah,
and people look at that different ways, but it's like, when that happened that day, and I should have mentioned earlier anyway, it was Bernard Lee who stopped me. He was at my table, and I'm putting my backpack on, and I'm turning to walk away, and it just looked like the other player had me covered easily, but he had a lot of smaller chips. And Bernard goes, "Don't leave yet, Craig." He goes, "You may have some chips left over." And I turn over my shoulder and I look, and the dealer throws those 2 black chips. But yeah, that definitely helps your confidence to realize. I mean, obviously the cards worked out for everything to happen the way it did. You don't go from that situation with 21 players left out of 680 with the blinds at 30 and 60,000 with a 10,000 ante. and build from that to, to have happen what happened for me. But, it just has to happen to you once. And I think everybody that plays long enough, they realize that, they've seen their chips swing and they know they can get on those runs, but it doesn't matter. Even though they know it can happen, I see a lot of guys just give up once they've lost a lion's share or a big chunk of their chips and just start playing different or, just giving away chips or give away the rest of the tournament. And I'm not even saying that I haven't done that a time or two.
Sure.
I have. I mean, I'd be lying to say I always do that right. I don't. But I know enough to try to fight through that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. You lose the patience. You just don't have the patience to stay in there and do it again.
Well, I think for me, the key takeaway on everything you just shared is that you owe Bernard Lee some of that $300,000.
Oh yeah, I took care of Bernard. He's involved with some charities, and offered him some stuff, and he said, "How about donating to this?" And I said, "More than happy to." And so no, but it's kind of funny though. Bernard, when he did that, and I was kind of turning around and starting to walk from the table, but when he stopped me, but every time you hear him on the radio or something and he tells that story, it's like it's gotten to the point where it's like he's tackled me on my way out the door.
Right, exactly.
And dragged me back to the table.
Car.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, I love that guy. He's just a great guy. He's great for poker, and he's very charity oriented and very family oriented, and he's just a great guy.
That's fantastic. So the Gus Hansen book meant a lot. Are there other things that stand out as I guess defining moments for you, either giving you specific insights into how the game works or overarching strategies? Anything else stand out there?
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to answer that exactly. I don't think so. I mean, it's like I'm always, like everybody, I'm always trying to figure out the game, and I'm trying to figure out the changes in the game. Like how are players playing now? I mean, it's now when you get called after a continuation bet, you don't know if you're getting floated. You don't know if you're getting slow played. That's where the read part is so important. I mean, with what speed did he make that play? How confident does he seem in what he's doing? Does he look like he's trying to figure out what he's doing as he goes, or does he look like he knows what he wants? Is he a high quality player that, is trying to throw me off? Is he a weaker player that, it just goes on and on and on. The game is so complicated and so difficult, and all you can do is go with your read and try to figure out, this is the right thing to do, and go with it, and hopefully you're right, but a lot of times you're not. So
I'm curious as a read player, and it's interesting. I've talked to a number of different players, and there really is a spectrum of, the guys that are, highly mathematical, highly analytical, highly, GTO oriented, all the way through to people that are saying, I have no idea really, I don't have any strategy going in. I'm just kind of trusting my gut and trusting my read. There's this whole spectrum of people, and I'm curious, as you're describing yourself more as a read player, do you still go in? Do you still have sort of, I guess, preset ranges for what you're going to, what you're going to raise with pre-flop in different positions? I mean, do you still have sort of an overarching structure of different hand ranges that you'll 3-bet or continuation bet or anything like that, or is everything fully, read based?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's mostly read based, and I know a lot of players that are very mathematical, and they will go with the math every time, no matter what. And to me, that just doesn't. I mean, I know the basic math. I know how to figure out what the odds, of your outs are and all that. But I use that. I mean, obviously, you have to weigh that into the equation. But I know guys that take it so much further. And if they think they're ahead, or if they got a slight edge, they give up big chunks of chips or all their chips, just because the math was right. And I was ahead, and I don't know. I'm not that way. I just don't. I just think people put too much into the math. Maybe, and I'm sure they're going to say I'm wrong in that. A lot of the players that are, and I'm not going to change anybody's thinking, but for me, that doesn't give me confidence. What gives me confidence is looking at the cards that are on the board, looking at the positions of the players that are involved in the hand, looking at the chip stack sizes as to why they might have done what they did based on, where was their chip stack, where's their chip stack now, is this guy panicking, there's just so many things. It's not just, does he move his hands a certain way, or does he, does he verbalize when he's bluffing and just put chips out when he's not? It's so much more than that. So it's just, and it only comes with, I think, experience in play, and I've learned how to adapt, just what I saw in the field as a police officer toward, as far as body image and motion. I think, and I know I don't have the best body image at the table when I'm playing at the final table. Sometimes my mind is so busy trying to figure everything out. My wife said always said I'm very fidgety, and I am. I don't sit like a rock. I don't sit like a stone at the table and not move and afraid to do this or that. I'll sit back in my chair, and a lot of times I'm throwing reverse tells out there. I'll sit back, I'll sit forward, I'll bet fast, I'll bet slow. I just, I try to vary it so that people can't figure anything out, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people have figured me out.
Well, no, so who knows, right? But I mean, so part of it is, you're looking at, the other person's motivation quite a bit is what I'm hearing in that is, why are they doing what they're doing? Are they strong? Are they weak? And then obviously you're taking that as an input and you're combining that somehow with the strength of your hand. I mean, in some cases you're probably just going with your soul read, like with Kathy, and you're gonna 5-bet shove or whatever, just because you have a soul read. But a lot of times I would guess you're looking at their motivation, and then you're coupling that with your hand strength or whatever that is, and to make a decision, right?
Oh, without question. But sometimes I just know I don't have a hand, and I'm looking at what can I represent here? How's the hand played out? And I was just on, I don't know, last week on the Heartland from an event from St. Charles, and Kenna was looking at a couple of the hands I played, and in one hand I checked the flop, and then I bet the turn, and I bet the river, and I got called. And I had king high, and my opponent had ace high, and he just decided to go with that. Well, that's fine. He made a great call, and I said it was a great call, and it was. Kenneth said, well, if he would have bet the turn, or bet the flop and bet the turn, he would have taken it down then. And he's right. I would have. But then again, I'm setting up my opponent hopefully for later, because later on, which ended up ending it for me, because I'm never afraid to see cards hit the board. I just don't, just because there's two spades out there, I don't necessarily put my opponent on two spades in his hand.
Right.
But toward the end, the hand that happened was I had pocket sixes.
Yeah, I thought this was rough.
Yeah, and we were heads up, and it was my birthday weekend. I was born on the 6th. It's one of my lucky numbers as a rule, and it was going to be my birthday in 2 days. And I just knew I was going to hit the set. I just knew it. And when it was in the window, and I thought, wow, I just knew that was going to happen. Now, a few hands before, we went into the final two players, and he had I don't know, I forget, 8 million chips. I had 2 million, something like that. And I got lucky. I played 6-4, one of my hands, and the flop came king 6-4. So I thought, boy, if he's got a king in his hand, I'm going to double up here. And I did. I blindsided him, and I did. Well, then we get 2 hands later, we get into the hand where I get the set of sixes. And the flop came king 8-6. So I'm thinking, if he's got a king, I'm going to win this thing. Because I had 150,000 chip edge on him. It was 5,150,000 to 5 million, something like that. So I bet the set, and he called 404 or 450, I think I bet, and he called. So right there, I'm thinking he's got a king, but he's not re-raising me, so maybe he's got a weak king. Right. So then the turn comes and it's safe. It's a deuce, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. So I checked the turn because I wanted him thinking that, hey, when I checked earlier, I was checking, because I was bluffing, because I knew I was going to put a big bet out there on the river if he just also checked, when he had checked first. So then the 4 shows up on the river, and there was no flush possibility. I didn't even see the straight because I had such tunnel vision that he had a king in his hand, and I thought he had 2 pair. I thought I was right about him having a weak king, and he probably hit 2 pair on the turn of the river with the king deuce or the king 4, and I just had it in my head. That's what he had. And boy, when we turned those cards up, I bet the million he shoved, I called, and there's no way I'm laying that down, heads up anyway. But somebody said, well, did you feel bad, if you would have bet the turn, maybe he would have folded. Well, he was open-ended. I would have had to bet like 1.5 or 1.6 instead of what I should have bet, which was 800 or a million, something like that. But either way, I think he's calling unless I went really big. If I went really big, I'm giving up the value I have in my set. And if I shove, I see players do that all the time. They shove with these strong. It's like, why did you do that? You don't
want him to fold a gut shot.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That'd be a crime if you folded that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, in that case, I let a card hit the board, but I think it would have hit anyway, and we would have had the same result. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you check here, and everybody says, well, you shouldn't have done that. Well, what people at home have to realize when they're watching poker on TV is that the announcers already know how the hands are going to play out.
Exactly.
They I did the announcing for one of the Heartlands, and they give you all the hands, and you get to study them ahead of time, so you know what your comments are going to be. So, it's more interesting when everybody thinks they're making these comments live, but they already know.
There's a reason the hand made the TV.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, so that's why I do what I do, and we all make decisions, we all make plans, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and hopefully it works more than it doesn't, and you get to the end.
Well, one of the things I'm hearing out of this, too, is consistent with what I think everybody has said, regardless of where they are on the spectrum. I think what I hear is you've got to, it helps you the most if you can develop a playing style that is consistent with your personality.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be very hard for somebody who's super, just tight and, risk averse by nature to become Gus Hansen. It's hard for somebody who's, just kind of free to become a nit, or, it's hard for somebody who's really mathematical to really become psychologically based. And so what I'm hearing is, is kind of know yourself, be self-aware, know your personality, figure out what playing style works with that, and then optimize that. Within that, find people or find situations that you can learn from to really optimize your style. And that's what I hear from you. Is it sounds like, you know yourself, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and you figure out a way to kind of optimize your strategy with that.
No, that's very true. And it's like right now I'm trying to snug myself up a little bit. I'm trying to tighten up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't have as much fun playing that way, but I need to, because I'm getting called by hands I know I wouldn't normally get called by, but I know it's because it's me. And I have people telling you, well, I know how you play and this and that or whatever. So it's like, so I'm having to change my style a little bit, and I don't have as much fun playing that way. And maybe that's why I'm not playing as much, as I used to. But I don't know. It's like anything else. You live and learn. You just keep working on the game, and I've been luckier than most, and been more fortunate than most, and I understand that, and I realize it, and I know it's not because I'm a great poker player or anything like that. I mean, as I said before, anybody could win one. I know I'm doing something right, because winning that Heartland was one thing, but 2 years later I won the Chicago Poker Classic, and that was against like 5,100 and some players. I ended up winning that, and I came back from a chip deficit there too, and then a couple years later won the Championship Open for the Heartland against 480. So I don't think you just get lucky 3 times. I know I got lucky the first time, but I don't know, I'm doing something right, but lately been a little bit tougher, and you just have to realize that and where you are and do what you have to do to hopefully fix it.
Well, I think nobody's immune to variance, so you're going to be going through swings up and down both ways, but obviously your results over the long term are going to speak for themselves. And I think, one thing I wanted to point out just from an outsider's perspective, and again, who knows, we don't see everything about every player, but, as I watch you on TV, it just seems like you're one of those guys that, man, you handle winning well, you handle defeat well, you're a good ambassador for the game. It seems like you're a good ambassador for the HPT, and I think, as I talk to more and more players about how do we grow the game, we need more folks like that, treating people the right way at the table, win, lose, or draw, versus the sort of the attitudes that tend to drive recreational players away from the game by berating people or that. So I think, just from representing the recreational players that listen to this podcast, I want to thank you for, I guess, how you present yourself and being a good ambassador for the game.
Well, it's really nice of you to say that, but I mean, in the back of your mind as you get older and a little more mature, you want to sit back and think, my kids are going to watch this, my grandkids are going to watch this, my friends are going to watch this. I mean, it's only a game, and, either way, you're at the final table and you're making a lot of money one way or the other, Whether, and that's another thing too. It makes a difference when I don't rely on poker to make a living. I'm still working a job. I love what I do, and I continue to do it. I've got employees counting on me to do what I do. I've got family counting on me to do what I do. I know that's set in stone, and I'm good with that. Poker is it's a novelty, and again, if I hadn't been as lucky as I had been over the years, I wouldn't be playing even as often as I do. But at some point, if I end up going through my little poker stash, and I'll play less. So
right. Well, I want to respect your time so we can close up here, but I'm curious, what's next for Craig? I mean, are you kind of just plowing along and playing when you can play? Do you have any specific things coming up you want people to know about? Or, I guess also, are you directly affiliated with the HPT? And if so, kind of what do they have going on? So give us a little bit of a insight into what's coming up for you.
Yeah, I plan on going to, mostly HPT events like I have been because of the time as we talked about. It's a weekend and that works really well for me. I'm not really affiliated with the HPT. I mean, I got that nickname that I do and,
right.
People kind of know me for that, but, I've got a lot of, I don't know. I've got some records there with them that are fairly substantial, and it's just, I like being there. I'm known there, and do I have any special plans? Not really, other than to play those. I do plan to go play the main event, although by the time this airs,
right,
that will be done already. But I'll probably play 3 or 4 events this fall, and then wait and see what next year brings. So no, nothing earth-shattering, that's for sure.
Well, hopefully our claim to fame can be that we were the final interview you did before you started your World Series run and won the main event. So
I hope so. That'd be great.
Right now, hopefully. Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, that would be something else. I mean, what a dream for the guys that get there, It's just, what a dream. Yeah. I know Neil Blumenfield, he finished third a couple years ago, and he's a great guy, and I know him from the Heartland, and it's just such a thrill for him. But I'm always happy for the guys that get there. It's just a thrill of a lifetime. And what I've been fortunate enough to do a few times, I wish that for everybody that plays out there, because it is a special moment, and it may be the last time ever that every time I play it, or every time I'm on TV, I'm thinking this could be the last time ever. And it's,
right.
So you try to appreciate it as you go along. But, no, I wish that for everybody out there and all your listeners, that the right things come together for them and they get there at some point.
That's fun. I think for a lot of our listeners, our dream is to play the main event, period, just to play it. So there's sort of different classifications of dreams. But I think, for any of us, our dreams to come true, that, boy, someday you'll win that $150 deep stack at your local casino, or someday you'll make a TV final table at the HPT, or someday you'll run deep in the main event. I think it's fun to have that. And I think what I enjoy, even though there's some characters that are a bit sketchy in the poker community in general, like you said, you meet all these great people, you build this community, and I'm in Minnesota, and for sure here at least, people are railing people virtually every event, and I think there's this great camaraderie and community where we really at the end of the day are all rooting for each other's success. And I think that's something that I found in poker that I think is a fantastic part of my life.
Yeah, there's no question. And, if you root for your friends and you go there and you're happy for them, then hopefully they'll do it for you. Right. I mean, that's the one problem with when you travel around to play. Usually you don't, some of the players that are there, but like with the Heartland, these guys everybody's heading home. They get knocked out, they're heading home. And so there's not a lot of people in the audience. There aren't even a lot of people in the World Poker Tour audiences. It looks like there are. But, it depends on where they're playing and who hangs around there to be involved in that. But, I don't know. It just, it's a great game. It's a lot of fun to play, and, I appreciate the time.
All right, sir. Well, I appreciate your time again. And, if you ever need anything from us, please let me know. We're happy to help do whatever we can if there's anything that you ever need.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Craig, for your time and your words. Appreciate that. Tune in next week for yet another interview. I think we're planning on airing the interview I had with Kenna James, so that'll be next week, and then we'll go from there. But good luck, everybody, on and off the felt. Feel free to reach out to me directly, stevefredland@gmail.com, if you have any questions or ideas or concerns. Otherwise, just connect with us on Facebook. We have a group, Rec Poker, Twitter @RecPoker. And if you would be willing to rate and review and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, that would be phenomenal. All right, everybody, have a good week.